Hello and welcome back. Today we will be focusing on percentages of amounts. Okay, so just a quick recap. Percentage is always out of 100. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so let's have a look at how to work out 10% of a number. Well, this is a very easy way of working out 10% of a number. Just divide the number by 10. So if you divide the number by 10, you will get 10% of the amount. Let's have a look at some examples. 10% of 520. 520 divided by 10 equals 52. 10% of 90. 90 divided by 10 equals 9. 10% of 63. Well, 63 divided by 10, when you divide a number by 10, the digits move one place to the right, so it becomes 6.3. Okay, I've got a few questions here for you to work out. Can you work these out? So you can pause the video and see if you can work out 10% of 80 pounds and 10% of 120 millimeters. Remember, all you need to do is divide the number by 10. So pause the video now and work it out. Okay, so let's see what you've got. So 80 pounds divided by 10 equals 8 pounds. Well done. And then 120 millimeters divided by 10 equals 12 millimeters. Absolutely right. And when the number is in a context, so if it's pounds, you make sure you put the pound sign in. If it's in millimeters, you make sure you put the unit of measurement in. Okay, so 12 millimeters. Right, let's move on to the next one. So 5%. How do we work out 5% of a number? Very easy. You divide by 10, which gives you 10%, and then you divide by 2, because 5% is half of 10%. And that's why you divide by 2, because when you divide by 10, you get the 10%, and if you half the 10%, you get 5%. So that's why we are dividing by 2 as well. So let's have a look at some examples. 5% of 520. Well, let's divide by 10 first. So 520 divided by 10 is 52. And then we divide it by 2. So 52 divided by 2 gives you 26. So 5% of 520 equals 26. Okay, let's have a look at the second example. 5% of 80. Let's divide it by 10 first. 80 divided by 10 equals 8. And then you divide it by 2. 8 divided by 2 equals 4. So 5% of 80 equals 4. 5% of 64. Now, let's divide 64 by 10. What do we get? It's a decimal number. Can you work out what it is? 64 divided by 10? Well done. It's 6.4. So 64 divided by 10 equals 6.4. Let me write that down for you here. So it's 6.4. And then if you divide 6.4 by 2, what do you get? You get 3.2. Half of 6 is 3, half of 0.4 is 0.2. So the answer is 3.2. Have a go at these questions. See if you can work these out. Pause the video and work these questions out. 5% of $140 and 5% of 60 grams. Pause the video now and work it out. Okay, so what did you get for 5% of $140? Let's divide it by 10. So 140 divided by 10 equals 14, and then divided by 2 gives you $7. Well done. So I'm going to put the dollar sign in. Doesn't matter if you can't do it perfectly, just have a go. So $7. Okay, what about 5% of 60 grams? Well, let's divide it by 10 first. 60 divided by 10 equals 6. Divide that by 2 equals 3 grams. Well done. I hope you got that right. 3 grams. Okay. Let's have a look at the next slide. So what do we have here? 50%. 50% of a number is very easy. 50% just means half. Remember, percentage is out of 100 and 50 is half of 100. So 50% is a half. That's what it looks like as a fraction. That's what it looks like when you write the fraction down. That's what it looks like in a shape. It's only half of the number. So when you want to work out 50% of a number, you just divide by 2, because halving a number is dividing by 2. Let's have a look at some examples. 50% of 60, well, half of 60 is 30. 50% of 140, I know that, well, I know what half of 140 is, but if you didn't know what half of 140 was, you can see the number 14 in there. What's half of 14? Half of 14 is 7. So half of 140 must be 70. 50% of 5. Now you get a decimal number because 5 is an odd number. Half of 5 is 2.5. Okay, let's have a look at some more examples. Can you work these out? Can you pause the video and work these the answers to these questions out? Okay, you can pause the video now and then work out the answer. Okay, so what did you get for 50% of 400 kilograms? Absolutely right, 200 kilograms, because half of 400 is 200. Do apologize for the handwriting. I am using my mouse and it's not the best way to write. Okay, 200 grams. 50% of 6 pounds. Nice and easy. What's half of 6 pounds? 3 pounds. Well done. 50% of 90 centimeters. What's half of 90? If you're not sure, do you know what half of 80 is? Half of 80 is 40. So half of 90 is going to be, well, I know that 90 is in between 80 and 100. So half of 80, that's 80, sorry for the terrible handwriting. That's 80 and that's 100. I know that 90 is between 80 and 100. And I know that half of 80 is 40 and half of 100 is 50. So it's got to be between 40 and 50. It's 45 centimeters. And if you didn't know that, I would suggest that you learn halves of numbers, especially odd numbers or numbers that you don't know the halves of, like 90, 70, 30. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide. Okay, so this time we are working at 25% of a number. Now 25% is a quarter. It's half of 50. 50% was half. Half of 50 is 25%, which is a quarter. Okay, this is what quarter looks like. And the way we work out a quarter of a number is just by dividing it by 4. Very easy method. Dividing by 4. Very easy way to do it is halve the number and then halve it again. Okay, let's have a look at some examples. 25% of 200. Let's divide 200 by 4. So half of 200 is 100 and half of 100 is 50. Okay, so the answer is 50. 25% of 80. Well, let's half 80. Half of 80 is 40 and then half of 40 is 20. So the answer is 20. 25% of 120. Half of 120 is 60 and half of 60 is 30. So very easy method to divide by 4 is halve it and then halve it again. I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at these examples. Okay, so you can pause the video now and have a go. Okay, let's see what you got. Okay, so 25% of 300. So let's half 300. Half of 300 is 150 and then half of 150 is, do you know, 75 pounds. These are numbers that you need to learn. If you don't know half of these numbers, you just need to learn them. 25% of 160. Well, what's half of 160? It's 80. And what's half of 80? 40. So 40 centimeters. Well done if you got that right. Okay, let's have a look at the last one. 25% of 180 marbles. Okay, what's half of 180? It's 90. And what's half of 90? We've just done it on the slide before. 45. Well remembered. It's 45 marbles. I haven't got space to write the marbles, but if this was in a test, you would write the word marbles if it wasn't there. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide. Okay, 75%. Now, that looks a bit scary, but actually it's not, because 75% is the same as 3/4. 1/4 is 25%. We've just learned that in the previous slide. I'll write that here. So 1%, sorry, 25%, 1/4 is 25%. And that means The 3/4 that are left are 75%. So these are the 3/4 that are left, the green ones. They are worth 75%. So how do we work out 75% of a number? Well, we can just divide the number by 4. That will give us 25%. And then if we multiply that number by 3, that will give us 75%, because 25 times by 3 is 75. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples. 75% of 400. Okay, so if we divide 400 by 4, that gives us 100. And then 100 times by 3 equals 300. So this answer is actually incorrect. Let's sort this out. It's not 100, because 100 is 25%. We have to multiply it by 3, so it's 300. So can you see it's okay to make mistakes? If you do make mistakes, you learn from them. As long as you're learning from your mistakes, there's no problem at all. Let's have a look at the next one. 75% of 1000. Okay, so let's divide it by 4. 1000 divided by 4 equals 250. And then if we multiply by 3, 250 times by 3 is 750. Okay, so that's the way we work out 75% of a number. Another way you can do 75% of a number is you can divide the number by 4, and then that will give you 25%, and then just take that away from the whole number. So for instance, 75% of 400, so 400 divided by 4 equals 100, and then just take the 100 away from the 400 will leave you with 3/4, because if you take away the 100, that was 25%. If you take the 25% away, you're just left with 75%. So whichever way you feel comfortable, just use that method. Have a go at some of these. Pause the video now and have a go at these two questions: 75% of 80 miles and 75% of 120 kilometers. Okay, so what did you get for 75% of 80 miles? So 80 divided by 4 equals 20, and then 20 times 3 equals 60. So it's going to be 60 miles. Okay, as I said, the context doesn't matter, whether it's miles or fish or sheep or houses. It doesn't matter as long as the number is the same. Okay, 75% of 120 kilometers. Let's divide 120 by 4. You get 30, and then 30 times 3 equals 90. I don't know if you got that right. So it's 90 kilometers. 75% equals 3/4. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide. Right, 1% of a number. Well, we know that percentage is out of 100. So 1% looks like this. This is 100 square, and out of the 100, you've only got 1%, which is 1 square. As a fraction, that's what it looks like, 1 over 100, or 1/100th. Now, the way we work out 1% is very easy. You just divide the number by 100. Let's have a look at some examples. 1% of 200. Well, 200 divided by 100 equals 2. 1% of 1000. 1000 divided by 100 equals 10. 1% of 30. 30 divided by 100. When you divide a number by 100, the digits move 2 places to the right, so it will become 0.3. Right, I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at some of these. Okay, so what did you get for 1% of 300? Well, if you divide 300 by 100, you get £3. Well done. So 1% of £300 would be £3. 1% of 500 grams divided by 100. Well done. 5 grams. Okay. And then you've got 1% of 60 meters. Now, 60 divided by 100, move it 2 places to the right. If you move it 1 place to the right, it becomes 6. If you move it 2 places to the right, it becomes 0.6. So you've got a decimal one there, 0.6 meters. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide. Okay, so how do you work out 20%, 30%, 40%, or 70%, or even 60%, 50% of a number? Very easy. Divide it by 10, that will give you 10% of the number, and then times it by 2 to get 20%. Divide it by 10, and then times it by 3 to get you 30%. Because when you're dividing a number by 10, that gives you 10%. So it's an easy way to work out 10%, and then just multiply it according to whatever you're working out. So if it's 40%, you multiply 10% by 4 will give you 40%. 70%, you divide it by 10 and then multiply it by 7 to give you 70%. Let's have a look at some examples. 20% of 60. Well, 10% of 60 is 6. So if you multiply 6 by 2, you get 12. 30% of 60. Well, 10% of 60 is 6. Then multiply it by 3, you get 18. 40% of 60. 10% of 60 is 6. Multiplied by 4 gives you 24. I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at some of these. Okay, so 20% of 120. I know that 10% of 120 is 12. Times that by 2 is 24. What about 30% of 120? Well, 12 was 10%. Times that by 3 will give you 36 pounds. And 40% of 120, well, 10% again was 12. Times that by 4 is 48. Well done. Okay, I think I've got one more slide for you to have a look at. So let's have a look at that slide before we finish. Okay, so this is a bit of a challenging one where you've got 78% of a number. Now, 78%, how can I work out 78% of a number? 78% of £600 in this case. Okay, so what I've done is I've partitioned 78. I know that 78% is made up of 70% and 8%. So you can do this as well. You can partition the percentage to make it easier for yourself. Now, it's very easy to work out 70% because I know what 10%. 10% of £600 is £60. And then I multiply it by 7. So £60 times by 7 is £420. Okay, that's not finished yet. I need to work out 8%. So 8% of a number. Well, I can work out 1% of a number. 1% of £600 just divided by 100 gives you £6. And then what I can do is, because I've got 1%, I can multiply the 1% by 8 to give me 8%. So £6 times by 8 equals £48. Now, I haven't finished yet. What we need to do now is add £48 and £420. Can you do that mentally in your head? Well done. £468. So 78% of £600 is £468. I hope this video helped. You need, if you're still not confident, please keep on repeating the video, watch the different sections, and have a go at the practice questions. Okay, all the best. See you soon.